Tuesday, January 1st, 1980. It's the start of a brand new decade, and one that would prove to be a violent one in New York City history. In 1980 alone, New York City would report a total of 1,821 homicides, a sure sign that the remnants of New York City's 1970s would still linger on. In today's story, we would discuss a long-forgotten New York City tale, and one that you'd even find trouble pulling up in a quick Google search. It's a story I first came upon in the 1998 book, Holy Homicide, written by Michael Newton and put out by Lumpanics Unlimited. It's an incredibly strange tale, and certainly not the way the NYPD, the FDNY, and the residents of New York City wanted to kick off a new year. This is an exorcism in Harlem. It's approaching midnight on January 1st, 1980, at the apartments located in the Grand Houses at 1315 Amsterdam Avenue in Harlem. As the residents of the building recover from a night of partying in celebration of the new year, a strange smell fills the air as smoke starts billowing out of the apartment of 25-year-old Patricia Abraham. Shrieking screams soon follow. "Devil, get out of here and go back where you came from!" Residents of the building make their way to the smoky apartment and witness 25-year-old Patricia Abraham push her 5-year-old unclothed son into the hallway. The residents retrieve the child, but Abraham soon exits looking for him. She manages to get him back and force him into the apartment. She continues to run the hallways nude, screaming. Charles Magid, a tenant patrol officer, arrives to witness the scene. 25-year-old Patricia Abraham yells out to the smoky air, "My baby is saved! The devil is coming out of this baby tonight! If you want to see the devil burn, come on in!" The residents, utterly shocked at what they were witnessing, had kept their distance and alerted authorities. Tenant Patrol Officer Charles Magid ran from the building in a panic and made his way to the police precinct, where he alerted authorities as to what was going on, telling them that a woman had started a fire in her apartment and she was screaming about a devil inside her baby. Police and firefighters soon arrived to the scene. The firemen entered the apartment and witnessed what might be the most bizarre scene they had ever laid eyes on. They observed 25-year-old Patricia Abraham, nude and chanting incoherently in front of a pile of burning clothes. They enter a bedroom and find her 20-month-old child, Justine, severely burned and screaming in pain. They can't quite make sense of the situation, but it's apparent that whatever happened to the child was done at the hands of the nude, chanting woman, encompassed by smoke. The child is rushed to the local hospital. When Tenant Patrol Officer Charles Magid initially made his way to the apartment, he smelled something fill the air. He would say to authorities, quote, "We smelled the air and knew it wasn't a mattress burning." Charles Magid was right. What the building was smelling was the smell of human flesh permeating the air. It would turn out that 25-year-old Patricia Abraham had soaked her child in scalding hot water, and in a bizarre, violent exorcism ritual, tried to be rid her child of the devil by burning his body inside the home's oven. Patricia Abraham, as well as her mother Lucia, would be taken into custody. In time, the badly burned child's father, Leroy Justine, a house painter from the Bronx, would get word of the incident and make his way to the police station. The child's father had been living in the Bronx with his wife and another child of his. He's absolutely devastated by the news and begins telling authorities about his prior efforts to gain custody of the 20-month-old child. In May of 1979, Leroy Justine attempted to take the baby out of Patricia Abraham's custody at her apartment. He said that he found the child unclothed and neglected, and felt that Patricia was not stable enough to care for the child. Leroy Justine would be arrested for this incident and spent 6 days on Rikers Island. According to law enforcement, he would spend time on Rikers due to charges of assault, robbery, and weapons possession in connection to the incident. Leroy stated that at the time, Abraham told him that she would kill the infant before giving him custody, and in his mind, he was apprehended for trying to kidnap his own child. Despite the issues between Patricia Abraham and Leroy Justine, they recently spent time together at a New Year's Eve party. According to Leroy, it would be at this party that Patricia Abraham said to him, quote, "I'm gonna drive the devil out of my house for the new year." An odd thing to say, but something that could easily be dismissed as a silly, offhand comment. Patricia Abraham would be charged with first-degree assault. Sadly, 5 days later, 20-month-old Leon Justine would succumb to his injuries due to severe second and third-degree burns, which covered over 90% of his body. Charges against Abraham would be upgraded to homicide. Patricia's mother, Lucia, would not be charged with any crime. However, she was in the apartment while the bizarre exorcism rite was occurring, which is why she was originally apprehended. It makes you wonder what exactly she did or didn't do in order to stop her daughter. During the time hospital workers were trying to save the child's life, Patricia Abraham had been sent to Rikers Island to undergo psychiatric examination. Patricia would stay in custody without bail, and doctors would try to figure out whether Patricia Abraham was liable for her crimes, or perhaps in the throes of a wild psychotic episode, one that enabled her to perform her bizarre exorcism ritual on her own child. A crime which Arthur Michael Newton would refer to as a holy homicide. On Friday, January 18th, Patricia Abraham would be officially indicted on murder and manslaughter charges in a Manhattan court. Court-appointed psychiatrists had expressed concern at the time as to whether Abraham would be competent to stand trial. Based on their findings in their 2-week observation, they felt that at that time, Patricia Abraham was not competent. Tuesday, June 17th, 1980. It had been over 6 months since the bizarre New Year's Day events at Harlem's Grand Houses took place. Patricia Abraham is in court for a hearing on the status of her mental condition. The court would rule that Abraham was unfit to stand trial due to the information received from doctors who had been monitoring her. This would obviously send Leroy Justine, the grief-stricken father of Leon Justine, into a rage. Unfortunately, he would take his rage home with him. And on Thursday, June 18th, he would wind up in handcuffs. Police would apprehend Leroy Justine after being called to his Bronx apartment. He assaulted his 8-year-old child and wife with a baseball bat and barricaded himself in a bedroom. His wife would tell law enforcement that he hadn't been the same since the death of his child. The broken man seemingly fell into a deep depression, which all culminated when he committed violent acts against his own family. Patricia Abraham would remain in Rikers, pending another court hearing on the state of her mental condition. On Friday, October 3rd, 1980, Judge Michael Donson of the Manhattan Supreme Court would give his final ruling on the matter. Patricia Abraham, who was now 26 years old, would be found not liable for the death of her child. Psychiatrists monitoring her further confirmed this by saying that Abraham's mental state was so severe that she didn't realize the consequences of her actions. Furthermore, She performed her bizarre exorcism ritual because she saw her child shrinking and becoming deformed and felt that the devil had taken over her child's being. She would be remanded to a New York State mental facility where she would continue to undergo treatment. In October of 1981, Patricia Abraham would be released from a mental health facility on Manhattan's Ward Island. At the time of her release, she had signed a 5-year agreement with the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. The agreement stated that in the coming 5 years, she must refrain from assuming the custody or care of a minor child without prior approval from the courts. Abraham would also have to attend a weekly treatment program. Unbelievably, by June of 1982, it would be reported that Patricia Abraham, who was now 28, was pregnant once more. Not only that, but she was just days away from giving birth. Her agreement with the courts had been broken. On June 22nd, she would give birth to her daughter Lucia, whom she named after her mother. But who was the father? Well, you guessed it, 40-year-old Bronx house painter Leroy Justine. At least that's what he would tell authorities and news outlets. Seems like Leroy just couldn't distance himself from Patricia, even after she committed the ultimate sin of taking the life of their 20-month-old child in January of 1980. The child would be taken out of the custody of Patricia Abraham and placed in foster care. Leroy Justine would tell outlets that he was going to fight for custody of the child. He would state, "I would like to have the child because I believe it's mine. I could offer the child a good home, and she could visit whenever she wanted." And in regard to whether his wife, whom he had been living with in the Bronx, would be upset by the matter, Leroy Justine would say, "She doesn't mind. I'm not a one-woman man. I love my wife, but I love Pat too." The child will remain in foster care pending the decision on who would gain custody of the child. Now, Patricia Abraham, who signed a 5-year contract banning her from having custody of a minor, would surely not be able to care for the child due to this contract and the ongoing monitoring of her mental condition. As to what happened to the child and who ultimately gained custody, well, that remains a mystery to me. I could not find what came of this part of the case and used various internet searches to locate the names of some involved in this case. However, I came up empty. Patricia Abraham would be 68 today, and Leroy Justine would be at least 80. If you have any information, be sure to leave a comment or email me at newyorkcitycrimespot@gmail.com. If you remember this story, then please share that as well. And be sure to like and subscribe and continue to watch New York City Crime Spot. Thank you all.